Well, it's 6 o'clock. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on January 10th, 2023, our first council meeting of the new year. Happy New Year. We do not have any amendments to the agenda, so could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I will make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
We have in camera on there, but we'll just go into camera.
Oh, okay, good. I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Thank you, Councillor Slager. Number 2, could I have a motion to adopt the draft minutes from the regular meeting of December 20th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to adopt the draft minutes from December 8th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Any questions or comments?
From said minutes. Due to the agenda being the garbage collection, I guess there's two. They're similar. When we talked about garbage collection, we were looking for a private enterprise to enter into that. Are we gonna just like one kind of folds into the other? Hey, we'll do that. We'll do it on number 5. So my apologies. Pulling this up.
That would fall under number 11.
Or meant 5.
We're talking minutes.
But it's also tied into the minutes too about the municipality and garbage collection and providing bins.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yes.
We'll just leave it.
Okay.
I guess.
So all in favor?
Accept the minutes.
All in favor? Carried. Motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $314,049.20.
I'll make a motion to pay the open payables.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Slager. Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Questions or comments?
Yeah, the second line there, 09730. What is that big amount?
That is that's the down payment for the camera system at the Northern Light Center.
Okay,
And it's in it was in US funds since the 182.
29515. And then there was another one here, 60978, Steam Pro Resources.
Yeah, that is our water testing analyst that's the consultant who does that.
And 60980, is that what we spent on our Christmas dinner?
It is so,
Sarah, which one was that one, Thomas?
sorry, 80, sorry, number?
No, she's just asking the last one. Like it was for the Watson Lake Beach
What
one. Watson Lake.
Oh, Watson Lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
What's that?
I say that's reasonable.
I think so.
Be the whole down for that much?
Any more questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 2 individuals, I believe. Shane and
These are,
That was part of.
oh, that's part of it. Oh, sorry, then I have questions about 2 things other than. What's that?
sorry, did you want to go back to the,
I'd like to.
okay, sorry, gentlemen, just 1 second. We're just going back to agenda item number 3
What is,
briefly.
yes, what is the $6,300 school procurement?
Just bear with me, I closed out one. Yes.
It's right here, Ken.
Procurement school, for ABC.
Oh, that is, that's the procurement courses for Tiffany to take for doing our tender documents.
Okay, and then there's Staples for $6,300 to be getting like a new
That's
photocopier.
Supplies under capital.
Okay, just because it was like $1 apart, so it just seemed like really weird.
Any others on that?
That's it.
Okay. All approved. Okay. Back to number 4.
I think Shane's live, your worship.
Good evening, Shane.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Run and council members.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for allowing us, myself and my colleague Callum McClure here to attend the council meeting here.
Thanks very much for your time.
Happy to have you.
So Mayor Irvine, if I share my screen here, I'll just pull up a similar presentation to what we presented to yourself and Cam earlier, or I guess last year.
Mhm.
My apologies. Let me just pull it up.
Yeah, I believe that was November.
That was November. There we go. Can everybody in the council see the screen? Is everything sharing okay?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Well, again, everybody, thank you for allowing us to attend the town council meeting here. Just for an agenda, I'll try to not take too much time on the slides. But as far as a high level agenda, today, this evening, we're going to discuss alternative energy supply with liquefied natural gas and how Crowd Peak could provide an option to supply a lower carbon fuel to Watson Lake. Just as an agenda, just an introduction to Crowd Peak, who we are, company overview, discuss potential power generation and supply options, and then answer any questions that the council members might have. So high level, Crowd Peak, we were founded in 2012. We're based out of Vancouver, but we have a new liquefaction LNG facility and terminal based out of Fort Nelson, BC. So that facility is the closest supply point to transport liquefied natural gas to off-grid communities, industrial applications, mining, for power generation in the north. But the community of Watson Lake is an off-grid community. There will never be access, well, I shouldn't say never, but currently there's no access to pipelines that make natural gas available. And currently only options are transported in diesel and or propane or used bunker oil for various heating applications. So that's
James, sorry to interrupt. You're just on slide number 9 right now. I don't know if you want to go back to the beginning of your presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm on slide 2 in mine.
You're showing
That-
slide 9, yeah.
Is that
Well, for some reason, we're on slide 9.
And that's on screen sharing from you, it says.
okay? Let's try this again.
Just so you're aware, it's just council and us, and we don't actually have any attendees today, so.
Here comes.
Okay.
Apologize, we got one community member, which is great. Hopefully we can figure that share. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, is that the agenda?
Yeah, that works, Shane.
There we go. Apologize. I'm
No
so
worries.
used to Teams meetings. Zoom's not my forte, so I apologize.
All good. All good.
So back to where I was. So I was just talking about off-grid and Watson Lake. So Crowd Peak, we're founded in 2012. We're based out of Vancouver. We own and operate our LNG facility and based out of Fort Nelson. That is the closest supply point to the north for off-grid communities to effectively have a lower carbon energy and to lower your costs. We transport LNG throughout the Yukon, the territories, into Alaska, and all the way up into Inuvik and the Arctic Circle. So when we look at Watson Lake for, power generation at your existing power site that uses a lot of diesel, we would be a very cost-effective option to displace diesel and provide a natural gas solution to the town. So this is high level, just an overview of our facility. It was built in 2020 during COVID, commissioned in 2021. And a majority of the supply of LNG that is transported through Watson Lake goes to Whitehorse. Yukon Energy uses it predominantly during the winter for remote power. And it's a very low cost option for fuel for off-grid power generation use. Our facility, 500 kilometers down the road, so it's very, very close to your Watson Lake power plant that runs on diesel. And I'll couple slides from here. I'll show some numbers of what your existing consumption is and where there really would be an economic benefit and cost savings. Right now, we transport using various transport assets, but we have Super B trains. These are very large capacity trailers that are transported through every day through Watson Lake. So if you've seen one of our B trains or various configurations, tandem trailers, trident trailers, these are very large capacity payload LNG transport trailers that are double walled, vacuum sealed, and they are transported at low pressure. So very safe transport assets that transport through Watson Lake. So your power plant, Watson Lake Power Plant is a 5.9 megawatt power plant. That is a very large or medium to large power facility, and annually it consumes roughly about 4 million liters of diesel. That is a lot of diesel. So there is the option and there is the ability that the diesel generators could be switched to run on natural gas with LNG. They could be replaced with new technology for power generation, or essentially just brought in a 50% biofuel conversion to switch the generators over to run on natural gas. So just high level, that's your site. I understand that the secondary school, and I believe the campus across the street, uses some of the thermal for it to run their facility. You could operate exactly the same with liquid natural gas. From a storage, Crowd Peak, we offer very customized on-site storage solutions, small tank configurations that allow from anywhere from 7 days to 10 days to 2 weeks of storage, depending on the application and the need of the customer. But we can design something that would potentially meet the needs of the demand for the city. This is a standard LNG storage tank, small footprint, really for the demand that would be required for storage. You might have a 2-tank configuration, and that'd be the equivalent of about just shy of 60,000 diesel equivalent liters, which is very similar to what is already on site at the footprint. Now, cost savings. Right now, diesel on rack rate coming out of Edmonton is around about $1.50 for a diesel equivalent liter. With natural gas prices, very similar to what utilities, and if you live in Southern Canada, in Vancouver or Edmonton or Calgary, you're going to pay a price per GJ. The price that we could deliver LNG into Watson Lake is about the equivalent of $19 a GJ, which is the equivalent of about 68 cents a diesel equivalent liter. So versus where rack rate prices are and where diesel prices are in the north, it's actually closer to about $2 a diesel equivalent liter. So it's well greater than 60 to 70% cost savings on a liter basis. And based off of what the burn rate is annually for the power plant, it's about 4 million diesel equivalent liters. So on an aggregate, on an annual basis, that's about $3.4 million in savings per year. Quantify that over 5 years, it's up to about $17 million in savings in fuel alone.
Wow.
So that's the economics. From an environmental perspective and greenhouse gas emissions perspective, diesel, there's greater than 50% greenhouse gas emissions lowered with natural gas. There's substantially lower nitrogen dioxide emissions. So from an emissions perspective, it's a win-win all around. On kind of when you look 5 to 10 years out or longer, the town of Fairbanks in Alaska is very similar. They're off grid, but they run a liquefied natural gas distribution pipeline network to ensure that all thermal heating within homes in the community of Fairbanks, for example, can run on natural gas. So, is that something that could be implemented very similar into Watson Lake? Not only to run on just simply power for electrical, but also one day potentially thermal, where there could be a small distribution grid pipeline network. Crow Peak could provide all supply of liquid natural gas, and effectively there could be a regulated rate to Watson Lake to provide guaranteed long-term fixed rate of supply and energy. So that's long-term. That's a vision that could be implemented into the town of Watson Lake. But from an immediate perspective, there is very much an economic argument that converting the existing power plant that is run and owned by ATCO Electric to run on natural gas, from an emissions perspective, from a cost savings perspective, there is a very strong argument for that. Now, a potential partner that could lead this could be a First Nations partner. First Casca, they're working to move forward with a renewables project for solar. This also could be a project that could be a First Nations economic-led project that could be run and operated by First Nations and transported in LNG supply from Crow Peak. So just some high-level images of where we transport LNG supply in the north, all the way up into Inuvik. Inuvik runs Northwest Territories Power Corporation, exactly the same kind of a similar footprint. All their power generation runs on natural gas. They'll back up diesel supply, so that effectively they have a biofuel configuration to run natural gas throughout the year. And then with the ice road crossings and the ferries are not in place, they'll run diesel backup generators. So that is exactly what Watson Lake could implement. And it's only 500 kilometers from our facility, whereas we transport into Inuvik, and it's well over 2,200 kilometers transport one way. So when we look at transporting supply into Watson Lake, that's something that could be done very, very easily. Very similar. This is the LNG terminal and facility in Whitehorse, where we provide supply to Yukon Energy for their power generation facility. And then just a similar setup and footprint for storage tanks for another remote community that Crow Peak provides LNG supply to. So I'll pause there and open up the floor for any questions. And I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor Irvin, to present to the Town Council.
Thank you very much, Shane. It's a great presentation, even for the second time.
For the second time.
That's good. Yeah, so if council has any questions or comments or.
Yeah, so is Yukon Electricity interested in switching over to natural gas?
ATCO,
ATCO, is it ATCO? Sorry.
ATCO is different than Yukon Energy.
yeah,
They're different.
different entities.
Okay, anyway.
But have you spoken with ATCO Electric?
Yeah, so we've been in touch and spoken to ATCO Electric. They're interested. I think ultimately this is an initiative that has to be driven by the community as well as First Nations. They're a regulated utility, so utilities move slow. They make very calculated decisions long term. This is something that we view that needs to be driven by the community.
Okay. Yeah, and okay, so I think the last time we spoke, you mentioned you would reach out to First Casca and LFN. Did you have any success in that after we had spoke?
Yeah, so we've been in touch with First Casca. That discussion is progressing. There is an interest in it. I think their immediate focus is on the renewable project with solar. But they do see they do see the opportunity to introduce a natural gas solution. So those discussions are currently in play, but it's been very positively received.
Good. Good.
Wasn't there a discussion, or I was actually under the impression that ATCO was already in the process of converting some of their generators to an LNG, and they were gonna do like a 50-50 blend or mixer. What was this with Crow Peak or with a different company, or am I missing something?
So maybe a little bit of background on that. In 2012 or 2013, Echo Electric did put a project but it was ran into regulatory challenges with the Utilities Commission, because it was ATCO Gas that was supplying the gas to
Okay.
Echo Electric, and it was considered to be a sole sourced project where the gas was sourced from not on an arm's length basis, and that's where I think there was problems with that. That project didn't ultimately proceed. It was interesting at that time because that project was all premised on the fact that LNG supply would come from Vancouver, and obviously that's a very different status quo from what's happened now with supply that's basically, as Shane mentioned, just literally about 5 hours away, 6 hours away from Watson Lake. The other thing as well with the utility, it's depending on how the rate structures are, there's not always an incentive for a utility to actually make a switch. It may not be economically driven to lower fuel costs, because that may be just a variable cost in their operation, and there could be other factors at play. So utilities are relatively complex and don't always follow totally rational processes, if you like.
Sure. Answer your question.
It does, yeah.
Then Councillor Paquette, you look.
Yeah, okay, natural gas, is there the capacity then to use it like propane, and for homeowners then to have like a tank like propane does? No?
LNG is like condensed propane, if you will.
Yes.
I think.
So yeah, so LNG is just it's just basically natural. It's natural gas in its liquid state, so it's very, very cold, and you turn it into a liquid. And the reason for doing that, it basically collapses the volume 600 times, which makes it economical to transport in a truck. And we don't use liquid natural gas. We store it, and then when we come to use it, we actually heat it and turn it back into gas again, natural gas, and then it's distributed to wherever it's being used. If that's in a power plant. And then for a community application, it would just be gas distribution pipes. So it'd be the same facility, but you just have gas distribution pipes with meters, very similar to what we have down here in Vancouver or Richmond, and other sort of major cities in Canada, which are connected by pipeline networks.
Thank you. We had natural gas on the farm, but it was all piped in. It was none of this hauling it.
Yeah, and gas is actually a very like a good fuel to use in the north, because as it's in liquid at minus 150 degrees Celsius, so even in the depths of winter, you never get the problem of the gas turning back to a liquid in the pipelines. So it's a good fuel, and it's very efficient to heat, and it's a great hybrid system with renewables. When the renewables aren't as got the capacity or the ability to provide power and heat, then gas is a good backup solution for that.
Just like Whitehorse, where they have their hydro and the supplemented LNG, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Nothing.
Understand. Cam, you have anything?
No, nothing at the moment.
Awesome. Well,
Oh, maybe one more question. Have you connected with Lower Post in BC at all? About anything like this? 'Cause where did they get their electricity from? Is it from
it's from us.
Austin too? Oh, okay, all right.
So thanks again, gentlemen. After our last meeting, I was excited about this. I think that there is a lot of potential for change. And then I guess a couple of my questions last time were, what would your investment be? What would your return on investment be? And how would the change of generators happen if they happen? And then I also asked how do we get this process started? If that's something that the community is interested in, how do we get that going? And I think you brought that to our attention, that it's kind of be a community driven, decision, and make sure that we put some pressure on the powers that be to hopefully see some transition, because I think that it is a less the energy solutions, call it, or the losing my words right now.
But Calum and Blackford there, wouldn't the business model make sense if you approached ATCO and said, hey, ATCO, we have this, you could save $17 million over 5 years. And given your investment on this, like if they're operating, I mean, they are business people bottom line and being calculated, as you mentioned, with utilities, with that sort of savings and that having transportation that much less, they should be knocking on your door. Why isn't that happening?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think when you look at like the rate schedule for electrical prices, you end up with a system where it's there's like a Yukon rate, and so direct savings that happen in Watson Lake don't necessarily end up in the economic driver behind that doesn't necessarily support the ATCO Electric to actually go forward and make that that business plan. Also in the government, there's been a very high focus on renewables, and the reality is gas is not a renewable, even though it's the cleanest of the fossil fuels. But in our view, it's very important to have a very resilient backup solution to renewables in Northern Canada, because the reality is that renewables rely on a backup solution, and that can definitely be provided by natural gas. So our discussions with ATCO Electric haven't been as productive as we'd hope, but in some ways maybe that's the Yukon government that actually does ultimately foot the bill for power in the Yukon, that actually does have a motivation to lower costs, because a lot of the projects now are struggling with costs, and any way to offset costs in other projects might be a good initiative. So we still have further work to follow up with that, but also it's very important that the community stakeholders are supportive if it makes sense for the community, and we think in this case it would be a good project. The interesting one up in Fairbanks as well is the conversion rate of the Fairbanks residents to natural gas has exceeded their expectations, and the connections have been very much ahead of the budget of what was to be expected. And that involves we've been supplying gas to Fairbanks from Fort Nelson, and you can imagine that if you do that run where we have to just take a B train and split it at Beaver Creek and take the trailers in one by one, and that still makes a lot of economic sense for the Alaskan residents, then if it's just 5 hours away, it would make a lot of sense for the residents of Watson Lake, and it would be a very compelling saving on people's individual energy costs in the community.
So I think if there's anything that can be done from the council's perspective to further push this initiative forward with ATCO, there's a substantial cost savings opportunity here. But I think it's just, as Calum said, when it's regulated, it's based into the rate. It's something that really has to be community driven.
Councillor Slager.
I understand, yeah. Community driven is such a shrouded word because, or state or phrase, because that could be like people protesting outside of ATCO. It could be writing a letter in support of LNG. It could be getting First Cask on board or having them cut in on a percentage of profits, most likely, or something like that to make it worth their while, to make it worth ATCO as well. Like there's so many things here. I'm curious specifically what community-driven thing the town can assist you in your efforts.
I think it's application.
Advocation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, as little as,
I think
You
it would be approach.
good.
Oh yeah, definitely approaching ATCO and seeing if there's a desire. Like ATCO is very much involved in utilities and also in power generation. I think there's a strong case to put forward both parts of the project, power and distribution. And I think that when people see actually what natural gas can do to individual home build and also what it can do to power generation costs for Yukon, I think there'll be a lot of support for the project. I mean, obviously you get people that still are very anti any sort of fossil fuel initiatives, but the reality is in parts of the north of Canada, a hybrid solution is actually the only solution that really exists with renewables. So with being paired up, renewables and natural gas is a very good optimized way to go.
Councillor Hanchar, who's actually in Hawaii, had a question. Are you guys looking for a letter of support that would help you with your endeavors?
Most definitely. I think if that's something that we can have a, you know, formal communication, letter, support, absolutely, that's something we would look for. Also, if that's something, a very similar letter could be sent to ATCO directly coming from the city. That's something I think that also could further support the initiative.
Okay.
So your worship, Councillor Hanchar says, I think she wants to make a motion. Let's do it, lower carbon emissions and potential for lower electricity costs. Seems like a no-brainer.
Great. Great.
Motion to make a seconder?
I could make a
I'll second
motion.
that.
So that was Lauren's motion to write a letter of support to Crab Peak for LNG conversion at ATCO,
And
right?
I believe, yeah, and to ATCO and maybe Yukon government.
Yes, it's the Minister of Energy.
To all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a motion by Councillor Hanchar, a second by Councillor Slager.
Yes.
So there you have it, gentlemen. We'll have a letter of support coming your way, and I just think it's an exciting opportunity. I think, like you're saying, you have to have that hybrid of renewables with fossil fuels. It's just the way of the north. It's the way it is. So I think it's a great opportunity, and the fact that you guys are so close, and that's a newer development than there has been in the past, and it really it's a selling point as well. So
You're driving right through Watson Lake all the
Yeah.
time,
yeah,
so.
see you every day.
Well, we actually we do stop. Our drivers really enjoy the tags
Good call.
cafe, and so we do certainly make use of a lot of the facilities in Watson Lake. So
We appreciate that business.
it's a fantastic community.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. So yeah, if there's anything else you guys, gentlemen, would like to add?
No, we really appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, the support, the letter, that would be fantastic. So thank you to everybody.
Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you very much, and we'll definitely be in touch. We'll have administration draft something for you right away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'll drop off and again appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting, but they're gone.
Quick.
Weird.
God.
Okay, would just like to say for the record that I think that is an amazing opportunity, and if we could add it to the community for residential service. Imagine paying what they've just disclaimed as 67 cents a liter for fuel. You know, even propane is 79 cents. So it's just another savings. And if there's a if they're here all the time, it's going to go down even more.
Yeah, if you look at
You
the ICT property,
Yeah.
totally set up for it already, they need a conversion tank.
We have so much infrastructure going on soon. There could be potential to tie that in with the same process and just potential.
How do they do gas lines? Similar?
It's trench.
Yeah.
Same thing, they just drag it usually.
Mhm.
Wouldn't have to be too deep.
No different than them doing fiber optic.
Yeah. Gotcha.
We had diesel and then we converted over to natural gas and the saving is huge.
The cost of replacing a diesel tank these days is almost cost prohibitive.
Hmm.
So it's steering more people towards propane more and more and more. And if you can haul it up, you know, like they say, it's compressed 600 times. It can be converted to natural gas, and if it could either be sold or set up in a distribution network, that'd be great. Another thing that people often freak out about with LNG is they're like, oh, what if it explodes? And the way those tanks are designed, I know from my time in the fire department, they did a demonstration where they took LNG and basically poured it into a cup of water, and because it's so cold, it just basically dissipates into the air. Like it's not like a fuel spill where it contaminates the ground.
Hmm.
And the guy like took the water and drank it afterwards. I was like, "Great." But to demonstrate that that's how environmentally safe it could be. So that being said,
Nope, it's exciting. I like it. Very exciting.
Okay, so we'll move on from that, if everybody's okay.
yeah,
Okay, number 5 on our agenda is the Watson Lake Food Bank letter for garbage collection. Everybody had a chance to read it? You want me to read it out loud?
Just, they only have one garbage can there now, like there's one probably for the daycare, one for seniors.
They're correct. And your worship, the interesting thing from administration was that they have been set up in one of our buildings for the last almost 2 years and had been dealing with their garbage on their own. Because they've never had a bin or asked for garbage in the last 2 years, so I'm just curious as to why the change now. You know, if they've been 2 years without having to request one in a building that didn't have garbage pickup,
So one thing, I do know
what they
that
were doing.
they do have a regular employee, and I think they have I don't know if it's full-time or part-time employee for the food bank, right, you know?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. The change from the capacity to food bank to.
They
like,
do have
I
just,
don't know.
they do.
I don't know if it's just Sue or what's your,
Did hire someone.
I'm not sure who this Dawn,
Yeah,
That's
it's
who
Dawn.
they just
That's
hired. Yeah.
Employee is food bank. So.
Yeah, and she's like part-time. So I don't know what the change is. Maybe she doesn't have a vehicle to haul the garbage.
is it food that's being donated that goes bad? I don't know.
I'm in support of providing them with their own garbage can.
She's in support. Councillor Hunter said she's in support of providing them with another garbage can.
We collect garbage from the rec center here. Anywhere else? In town?
Administrative wise, you mean?
Like we collect, like we have a bin out front there.
Yeah.
And we have,
like some of the parks.
the parks,
okay. So,
and those bins we remove in the winter time, other than here and at the rec center.
What are you thinking?
I'm in favor of supplying them a bin. I'm removing because it is the signpost seniors and the daycare and the food bank. Three very,
Essential.
yeah,
Well, just for the record, your worship, signpost seniors pay for their garbage pickup. So.
but they're limited to 2 bags, correct?
And so does the other, but so this would just be another cart. Like our normal cart is what they're asking for with their 2-bag limit. It's not one of the big bins.
Oh, well then,
This is the,
fly out.
this is the 2-bag limit.
Just a 2-bag, yeah.
From what I've read.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly the
Then-
same thing. They're just looking for a regular,
I thought they're asking for
Yeah.
a big industrial one.
no, don't, isn't there one already there?
Well, then, let's give them a bin.
But they need to be used to.
Councillor Slager, you're in favor of
Yes.
support?
I thought they had a massive.
So I have 2 supporters.
So that.
I support-
That would be a motion.
Yeah. So Councillor Hanchar had a motion
I'll second it.
of the letter from the food bank. Councillor Slager is second. All in favor? Carry. Took a little longer than it.
Well, I thought they were talking about a big one.
No, there was a big one there before.
Okay, sorted. Next on the agenda is number 6, letter from Minister Mostyn and his request. Or his, I don't know, inquiry to. If anybody would like to take part in a couple of boards that are missing members, right?
Yes, your worship, and this went out to every community, not just Watson.
Okay. So it's just a disclaimer for your information. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we can move on from there. Or unless you would like to discuss that.
Well, unless, yeah, because there was that comment here about, because there are government employees here that it states here subsection 10(9) of the act states an employee of the government of the Yukon cannot be a voting member on the board of directors.
Oh, that's under workman's compensation. So, but yeah, this is up to, if there's, your worship, what this is referring to, there's somebody in the community that you think would be a suitable candidate for any of these boards, please solicit them to apply. They have to apply on.
And it could be anybody, right? They don't have to be like an elected official or
No,
anybody, like it could be anybody. Okay.
Yeah, it's a general, they're soliciting, they're looking for mayors and councils to act as ambassadors to find people to apply.
Oh, I see. Okay.
they're not asking us personally.
They're not asking. Okay, I thought that's what it was. Okay.
It's information.
Is
to-
Ruth there?
No, Ruth is not here. Janice is though. Okay. Clear? There's mine?
No,
Got
for
it?
clarifying that.
Okay. But it is nice to have members from Watson Lake of any kind on all those boards, because to have some say, you know, how many boards are you on, Cam?
Currently down to 1 year.
Okay, there you go. Councilor Slager, have you been on any of those?
I'm on a board right now and I'm currently the grad advisor again.
Yeah. But are you on any of the Yukon government boards? Or have you been?
Probably,
But no,
no.
What about you?
I have not. Have you?
Oh, like ethics committee and stuff? Yeah, I have.
In respect to what?
To like education.
Hospital board or?
No, but
I
like,
can't be on the hospital board.
Or but
Employee.
anyone, just,
I've sat on boards before.
okay,
And right now, given the fact that I'm trying to rebuild my family home, being a grad advisor and
there's no time for that.
Yeah.
Understand, okay.
I'm on AYC. That's.
Yeah.
I'm on at the moment.
Okay. So anyways, spread the word. It's good to have members of the of Watson Lake on those boards for input for our community.
Agreed. Is there any town employees that you would think that would be good members to go on a board like that? It's actually a great opportunity, I think.
Well, you do learn a lot. It's nice.
I agree.
But we can solicit and mention it to the staff and see if anybody might.
Well, we can put it out on our Facebook and.
Yeah.
The website, your worship, to see if there's, just to spread the word.
Yeah.
It's been in the news, been in the newspaper forever.
Yeah.
The government's been looking for people for numerous roles. And most of them, you have to do a resume, application, and then select it and send.
And this one's the same.
Okay. I hear, is that? Lauren, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say that it does say on there that if they don't have enough interest and if somebody puts their name forward, that they would just like acclaim that person, that's all.
Okay, fast track. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda. CAO report. CAO Lockwood.
I thought I was getting away with that.
When does that happen? Okay.
Yeah, welcome to 2023. We're moving right along, and as you know, January 21st is the official opening, open house for the new municipal services building. So please spread the word to get people out. Very nice to have the mayor and council out. We're gonna do a barbecue, open house, public works staff is working that day to show off their shop and their equipment. The firefighters will all be there as well, and we're serving hot dogs and hamburgers. And once we know who is coming from the government, then we will have guest speakers as well, but your worship will be speaking, and MLA McLeod will also be speaking, and we're waiting on a response from LFN or DELU as well. We've reached out to LFN language department because they were part of the naming process. So that invitation's gone out so far. So that's coming. And we can officially put the 2022 snow budget behind us. And
That was lucky.
yeah, we got away lucky in the end. So, so yeah, now we're into the 2023 process. As you know, you passed the provisional O&M budget. Between myself and my managers, Shannon and I are on the final strokes of finalizing the 2023 budgets to come to you. So we would like probably both budgets will come to council for the second meeting in February for first and second reading. And then it'll come to the committee of the whole meeting, the first meeting in March. And then there will be a town hall meeting. So in March, so that way it can come back for third and final reading before the end of March. So I guess what I will be looking for council is if we can put a date to a March town hall meeting now, so we can plan ahead, because I know your worship, you're going to be gone for the month of February, so hence the reason we're into March. Budgetary numbers have been coming in not too bad, so I'm quite happy. Very little change to what you've already seen in the O&M budget in the provisional. There's a few things that popped up that we've been floating around, but no major changes in the O&M. Capital, that's another can of worms because it's rather fluid, but we're nailing down those things. And right now it's just trying to get finalized budgetary numbers from suppliers. It's very hard, as you can imagine. In this post-COVID world, nobody seems to want to give information or commit the stuff that they might have to look into later down the road. So that's going ahead. And I'm very, very happy to announce that the locksmith is in town, and we are in the full process of rekeying every town building. And as of tonight, the admin building has been totally rekeyed. So old keys that were floating around and no tracking on are the way of the dodo now for this building. He's starting first thing tomorrow morning at the rec center, and it's going to be a numerous day process for him to change out there. But we'll be back in control of our buildings and keys. So, which is something that hasn't happened for years, and it's been a huge liability to the town. So, unfortunately, it's taken us almost 3 years to get a locksmith that would do it. So that's moving ahead. Fire department, I'm very happy to say, is had 17 members out for their first training session of 2023. And this weekend we have first aid training for staff and firefighters. So we have 11 people taking first aid in our new training facility at the MSB building. So, which is rather nice. So it was very nice to have a big turnout like that for the fire department for the first time of the year. And hopefully that's gonna continue on, but lots of buy-in. We've been having lots of issues with EMS assist calls and stuff, but Colin has been very good with dealing with Yukon government on it, so it's becoming less and less of an issue. Or I guess maybe when they've heard no so many times that they stop calling.
Hmm.
So anyways, he's dealing with that, and I've been dealing with it at the ADM level to try and get it resolved, because it's YG's matter, and they're still refusing to pay our bills when we submit them. So it is their issue, not ours. And dogs. We had 6 in as of yesterday. We've got another, I think, 6 coming in again. Connie took 4 dogs that we had in the pound, and 13 dogs from puppies from Yarn to Whitehorse today.
Oh, wow.
So that's 17 dogs out of the community in one trip. So there's lots of advertisements of puppies available in town, and I think the financial crunch is just starting to set in now. That Christmas has been through, as people spend the money, and also they got these dogs, and where do they go? So as long as we can work with Yukon government and Maybacker, we'll keep funneling them out of town. And then the dogs that aren't adoptable out, Connie's got a connection at Mutt Manor, it's out in Tagish, and they take hard to home dogs or violent dogs, and they go there. So it's been a huge endeavor, but it's consuming a lot of time. But I'm just glad we have a bylaw officer to be dealing with it, because otherwise you can imagine how our phones would be ringing right now. So yeah, so we're plugging away with that. And we staffed the other receptionist position at the rec center. Kayla, our garbage truck driver, has actually gone to it because she was only a term.
Okay.
And now Public Works is back covering garbage truck for now, until we sort out some staffing issues on that front. What else is got in the middle? That's about it for now, Your Worship. I'm sure question period will tweak some questions.
Sure. We'll leave the questions and maybe the discussion of town hall for council open forum, if that works for everybody.
Yeah.
Anybody opposed to that?
On the other thing, Your Worship, we have, we're working on planning for the AYC AGM as well, right? So that's May 11th to 14th.
I think Councillor Hanchar is supposed to be the planner for that, right? Couldn't we delegate that? Okay. Perfect.
Yes, and we will be working on that as soon as I get back. Thanks.
Great. Okay.
Planner.
So we'll move along then. Number 8 is the in-ground infrastructure preliminary design.
So Your Worship, in your packages, I provided you with the draft plan, and it's just an overview. Isn't it showing up on the screen? Number 8. Bear with me. So what's going on for tender in February in that package that I sent? And actually, I guess for Janice's.
Yep.
Where are we? So what's going on for tender in February is the orange section, which is everything on the south side in between 9th and what's Chad Hammers? And the corner by Chad Hammers?
I think that's good.
Yes. And then across the other side, and then everything sort of the same thing in between 9th and 8th. All the way, which is down to not Lakewood, Lakeview, but the next one past, Finlayson.
Mhm.
Is going out with inclusion of Tintina Way. Which it actually shows, it shows in orange, but on here, because I'm not zoomed in enough, it's also in this stage. So that's what's going out for tender in February. And then the following stages would be yellow in 2025 and 2026. Followed by teal, which is sort of the Help and Hope, Nahanni. In 2027, followed by green in 2028, 2029, which is the area that was actually done, a lot of that work was done in 2012 for Sidhu. And then followed just the mop-up of the blue, which is sort of the rec center institutional end there. And I was supposed to have an update on funding today, but my meeting got canceled with YG. So phase 1 and phase 2 have been approved through Yukon government. Phase 1, we have, I believe about $7 million set aside for it right now. And all the work that we're doing is under the new federal government spending under their new ISIP. So it's just a matter of waiting on the financial red stamps from Canada on the next phases. So we're going to proceed with the tender documents going out this year. As part of stage 1 is the expansion of water and sewer. So that will pick up from Northern Lights Center down 8th to Centennial. So we'll have a fire hydrant at the corner of Centennial, right at the MSB building. And then water and sewer will continue all the way down to the corner at Patty McLeod's.
Pass there.
And yeah, and past is what the recommendation is, to pick up those extra 5 lots. And then down, all the way down
Stikeen.
Stikeen to Caustic's Corner. Yeah, and then down across the highway, which would be right at which would come out sort of at the corner of like Yukon Supply type, right in
Yeah, it
there.
looks like you right at Yukon Supply.
Yeah, and so Jewel Geisler's, and then all the way back down. So there will be an extension that will extend our firefighting capability as well with hydrants as well. So big step. I don't want to get too much into the next stages until we have confirmed spending, but these are the areas that are identified in this are areas that we've had issues with. And the other orange stretch down, which is Wildlife Drive, it's road work, right? Because we don't have water and sewer. So
Right.
it's roads, ditches, and draining.
Okay.
So I can just flip through the screen.
So that orange, sorry, that orange section is just the roadways, basically from
From
fourth.
fourth down to Steubenberg.
So just Y Drive and a couple other roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Skelton.
Skelton Drive.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that one. I guess if I'd have been just flipping through the screens as I went, but this what's going on and what shows in here, I haven't got the updated version from them. The engineer was away, so this doesn't accurately show what's going on. So that extension of the water sewer from the Northern Light Center will come out down this way, which will in turn increase our flow and research and reduce the risk of freezing for that whole loop at the Northern Light Center as well. They had originally talked about tying in over here behind, this is Tintina expansion across, but when we talked to them, it triggers a lift station. And half these lots are, half this whole one side of the street is interim protected. So if for the bang for the buck, it wasn't worth it right now.
But the other side isn't.
It isn't interim protected, but if it triggers a lift station with the Francis Avenue, it wasn't part of the areas that council had prioritized.
They're available lots.
Well, they're not. Yeah, it has to go through that agreement with Yard First Nation to get all that really stuff, so. So, and then the other thing that was discussed through this is, increasing piping size based on firefighting capabilities. So something that did come out of it is the fact that a lot of our water line doesn't meet the city of Whitehorse standard, which is the bylaw that we go by. But it does, we are in, and even the, I guess we get no tongue tied, but even the city of Whitehorse doesn't even meet their own standard for firefighting. So the recommendation was that we go with MMCD, which is the Master Municipal Construction Design standard for our firefighting. So the administration is working on an amendment to our water and sewer bylaw, just to change that.
Are they gonna cancel the dry hydrants that they're?
That's a whole other project that I'll get to after.
Yeah, that was gonna be a
Yes,
question.
that's different again. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get to it in a bit. So the change to our current bylaw is gonna be coming down the pipe. And then they talked about hydrant spacings again as part of that project. Then as they go, there's a whole bunch of things about hydrant spacings based on new standards. So you have to bear in mind, this whole slide deck that I provided to you is covering all 5 phases. So some of it will change as it goes.
Something to keep in mind, given the current existing size of our pipe and the size of our reservoir, we can draft off a fire hydrant for only like, what, an hour and a half before we run down to 25%, which triggers us to stop fighting said fire. Like,
It's actually longer than that. Prime example is when the
Howard's fire, Howard Suffolk.
the Howard's fire was before the reservoir was double in size.
Oh, it's double now, okay.
So the seniors 12-plex, when the sprinkler line blew, that 2-inch line, we pumped 780,000 liters of water into the basement of the seniors 12-plex on the 23rd of December.
Crazy, man. A lot of water.
780,000 liters.
I have a picture of that water. I have a picture of the water in that crawl space. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and that put us down to 50%. And that's with other consumption, and we are only running off one well at the moment because we're waiting on parts for the controller for well 4 at the moment. If we were running on both wells supplying, we're confident we wouldn't have dropped even close to that amount. Like the volume would have been there, but we wouldn't have dropped the 50%. So that's a lot of water to go through in a short period of time. So, the other thing that's being addressed in the upgrades is flow for freezing potential, reduction of freezing potential. They identified some dead ends and some restrictions. So there's recommendations coming, or will be changes that will be done in the new upgrades that will take that away as well.
Campbell Way, is that still?
Yeah, Campbell Way's on the list as well.
What is the water age? How do they figure that out?
They go by the volume of the push from the plant
Yeah,
and the distance of the pipe. There's quite a formula. It's all done by computer programming. But yeah, the age of the water is something that was unique to me as to how they can calculate how long the water is actually sitting in the pipe before it's recirced around. Yeah, it's quite a system. And then part of the new stuff is the water connections. So we're doing new curb stops, everything on each property line. And so then they had a question, well, you know, will the town do water connections to the houses? And, you know, that's always been a hard no, because we're digging on somebody's property and we don't have the manpower to do it to begin with.
Mhm.
It's always been private. And so what they've been doing in all the other communities is whoever gets the contract, whatever company does it, they've been providing their information to the homeowners. So if the homeowner wants to redo their chunk of pipe to the property line, they can subcontract or they can contract the contractor to do it. So it's not the town doing it. And it takes that liability away because it's the homeowner hiring
Mhm.
the contract, a professional contractor.
That's a good idea.
So,
But if you were ever to replace your water and sewer line or your water line, that would be the time.
yep,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
And the new stuff is the double line, so we're going away from transformers. Because we can't get transformers anymore and it's the way of the dodo, nobody's doing it that way. So the new system is a 2-line research system. And they use what they call a pit orifice, which was a new term to me, but it's like a glorified spoon on the end of the valve in the main. And it directs the water up the pipe and around, and then there's another pit orifice on the other side, and it creates this venturi flow, and the water flows around. So they've been using it in Alaska forever. I've read a bunch of really in-depth reports on it, and 50, 60 years with that pit orifice in the pipe, and no signs of wear and no issues with freezing.
Mhm.
So the lines come in, the 2 lines come into your house, and there's just a T that joins them. And the water supply in your house comes off of it, and then would be your shut off and then the meter. So new way of doing things, then you're not worried about transformers and things, people, power or anything. So, yeah, so it's quite exciting.
I gotta convince people to get on board with that. I mean,
Yeah.
some people aren't gonna want to or can't afford to
Yeah.
do that at the same time.
So there is other ways of doing it, your worship, and we haven't really chased it much, but is doing as improvement charges. So then the town would finance it and they would go on their taxes. So there is ways of looking at it, and it's something that I would have to do a lot more research on,
Mhm.
but to make it more economical for people that are in need or low income.
Then you get into the battle of if they get it, why don't we get it?
Well, everybody can apply for it, but you're paying for it,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I think what would happen would be the town they could take a loan for the town as a local improvement charge,
right.
but it would be the contractor that the town would be paying. It wouldn't be the town doing the installation.
and then paid off for X number of years, that's zero.
Exactly.
Zero interest.
It'd be covered over so many years on your taxes. And then if you sold your property, that charge
The bill would carry with it.
carry with the property until it's paid off.
And we could probably encourage Yukon Housing to get everything done in their lots.
Yeah.
You know,
And we've been having conversation with Yukon Housing lots, so I think we could really push them when we know what areas are gonna be done.
Yeah.
So that way they can budget for so many houses per year,
Mhm.
right? So, so that's that part of it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, most of this just talks about advantages, disadvantages of doing the pit orifice, heat trace, that type of thing. And then the other thing we're working on is some changes on the sewer lines in some areas sort of around the lift station. They found some design flow design issues, so they're gonna deal with that.
Design flaw,
What's that?
did you say design flaw?
Flaw, yeah, because there were so many different pipes in there and so many different lift stations. This is the one over here on 8th. It's the third lift station there. So there was, from previous ones, there was a lot of pipes going around in circles.
Really?
So this is gonna take care of that.
How
And
about some expansion to Y Lake?
yeah, that's also on the list on priorities. It's in page 1.
Okay.
That will join to the cabin.
Okay.
And then the other thing will be ditching. So with the new roads upgrades, the roads are gonna be built up with ditches and culverts going to yards. So there's gonna be some grumbling of the fact that, there is gonna be a ditch and a culvert, which people aren't used to, but we're also gonna have drainage. So that's the thing that's coming as well.
How would that road height work with the current level of everybody's homes?
Road height might be a little higher, but there will be a ditch which is lower than their yards.
Create drainage.
Drainage, yeah.
So that flow, like your roadway might be down to your house, but the water should technically flow.
Well,
away.
because there will be a ditch in between the property and the road.
Yeah, okay.
And culverts at the driveways. And yeah, so the drainage, this slide shows their drainage plan of which way the water is gonna flow depending on what area of town. And it's hard to tell because it's overlap of contours over everything else, right? So, and then drainage from the other end of town. So this is, this is the Robert Campbell.
It's interesting on that slide there, when you look at, I think it is Teslin Crescent,
Yeah, it's a fishbowl.
and you have arrows going right into the bottom of it. So how do you get, I guess you just drain, you build deeper ditches around the corner.
Yeah, deeper ditches that bring it out.
That would be nice.
And so, yeah, so drainage is a big thing. So that's the basic, I just wanted to give you, this is an overview. Budget wise, the numbers are, everything has gone astronomically high, as you know, by just the public waste drop off area, how it tripled what it should be. Estimate, confidential estimate they've given me, is double what we originally thought for this whole project,
From start to finish,
start to finish,
so till 2023, 2030.
2028.
So I think I missed something. Sorry, I disconnected for a second, but that was going to be my question for you. What is the game plan? It's nice that the tender for this project is finally going out and it's actually going to start happening. But if we don't get any bids that are within our budget, which is only $7 million for the first bit, like what's the game plan there? Like, are we looking at losing an entire season again if they have to retender, or are we looking at clawing the project back considerably? Like, what's the game plan?
So the plan is, if tender comes out substantially higher than what is in the plan, we plan on doing it in phases. So stage one would probably get broken into 2 phases based on budgetary numbers. Unfortunately, but until Ottawa gets out their rubber stamp, unfortunately, that's where we sit. YG is really lobbying them right now to start rubber stamping stuff. But as you know, when we were chasing other stuff with them, Ottawa's moving at its own pace right at the moment. And so all we can do is make sure that we've got tender documents out in places and be ready to put a shovel in the ground for when those announcements are made, right?
Maybe it's a good thing they're.
I guess
a little bit slower, considering prices have gone up significantly, whereas if they had approved everything previously and then prices have skyrocketed, we wouldn't have enough.
Yeah. No, I know it's a double-edged sword, right? So, so we have good numbers, we have a good plan going forward. It's just a matter of getting, and YG has rubber stamped our project. It's just a matter of getting Ottawa to put the check mark so the cash is flowing.
I guess to follow up to Lauren's question would be that it would be nice to see what those separated phases might be.
Well, until we see the dollar amounts, I can't comment on it, Your Worship, because we might be able to do 3/4 of that work. And then maybe some road finishing on maybe some parts of Y Drive or Skeleton, don't get done next year. It depends on how close it is, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it rolls over the scope, maybe it has to roll over the second year, and by then Ottawa's already got the money in our account and everything just rolls downhill.
Is there anything we can do on our side? I mean, I know that I'm sure everybody's working really hard on it, and you said YG is lobbying on our behalf, but I'm just wondering if there's anything further that we can do, whether that's like reaching out to Dr. Henley again or whatever, just to try and get some sort of commitment. And I know that they don't really know, because like the funding, the next round of, like, I don't think they even know what they're doing, but, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that was one of my next comments was that, I've been really pushing hard for, MP Hanley to be here for the 21st. So him and myself and his staff have been going back and forth about that. And Tiffany sent them the invitation. We haven't got a reply yet, but, if we can get him in the corner while he's in Watson Lake and get him working on our side, pushing harder, and really explain this to him, I think that would pay dividends. And if not, then maybe it's a phone call from his worship to Minister or to MP Hanley to really lobby on behalf of the municipality if he isn't coming on the 21st.
Yeah, I've actually communicated with him on several occasions recently, so I would do that.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
So I think that's about as far as, and YG's, like say, YG is standing at the door pushing for us, so.
Nice.
Any other questions on that?
That's it for me right now. Thank you.
So your worship, that sums up information on that.
Great, thank you very much. See, that's great. We are excited for this. It's a bit nerve wracking. I think Laura emphasizes that, just with the funding pots and the way things are going right now, it's a big endeavor. And, hate to get halfway through and not see it finished, so.
And it's already a 10-year project. It would be a shame for it to be like 25.
Yeah, exactly. Cause then you gotta start again.
Yep.
At 10 years, it's
Yeah,
true.
you're right.
You can finish the final phase and then you gotta go back to stage one again, so. That, like I've said, like we've all known and we just don't want to get halfway through that project, have crappy roads and just be in a worse place than we started it. Look poorly on everybody's behalf, but
Well,
anyways,
that's why the phase is supposed to be complete, right?
yeah, sections anyways. That's why I asked
Yeah,
for,
so that way we
some
won't have a rip
breakdown
up.
of halfway through.
Yeah.
So you're not getting your in-ground infrastructure, but then the roads aren't finished, because I don't see that as an option.
No, I think if anything, Y Drive would get pushed back so that the water sewer end is totally.
Yeah, then you gotta determine who's on top of the list and where those lines go, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, seems difficult. Okay. Great, so should we move along? Okay, number 9 is the fees and charges bylaw. This is just the committee of the whole, so if there was any other discussion to follow up from what the final draft looks like, this would be a great time to discuss that.
Yes, I got some.
Okay.
I got some, so. The recreational facility, like just some of the pricing after GST is just wonky. So like, there's one for recreational center facility. Daily drop off, it adds up to $630. I don't know, maybe make that $650, like something just a little bit more, or $625 after GST, that's after.
Those are with GST.
Yeah, with it,
Yeah.
but that's what I mean though, like make it with GST, something a little bit more concrete, like $650 or $625, same with,
But after you add GST,
no, but yeah, like after, I want
So
the
that'd be
final
like
price.
631 or something, or 6.
No, because it's $630 after GST now.
Yeah, I know, so like, what I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, so when the GST is calculated,
Yeah.
it's 650, but like,
You could do that,
you couldn't.
yeah, no, you could.
Yeah, so I think, your worship, I think Tiffany had gone through and started modifying, taking the GST out. So that it was just the basic dollar amount. Am I correct, Tiff?
Even in general, to have debit cards these days.
I basically just provided what the fee would look like with GST, so we went through
Okay.
and determined what is charged GST, and then that's for those new.
Yeah, just some of them are a little bit funny, like there's $315 for a recreational facility for 5 to 12. Like, I don't know, just make it a more even number. That's all, and like, here's your dime and nickel and your $3.
Let's talk about what the tax.
I don't care, we're not talking about tags. Talking about the tags. Also like, there's another one like, swimming pool for seniors, like $420. Child at swimming pool is $315. Just those odd numbers, but that's pretty much the only thing I got.
I like the idea, what you're saying too as well, is the price have a GST included in it, but it's like rounded up to like 50 or 25, or you know what I mean, something like that, as opposed to just, I like it with the GST in there.
Truthfully, your worship, I'd like to survey our staff to see how many people are actually paying cash. You know,
I know, but I don't know.
It's convenience.
Yeah.
It looks like that's already been done for some of the things like the miscellaneous items, like it looks like, I don't know if that was intentional, but it looks like that's already been done, like for the printing and copying and the highway signs and stuff like that.
Often it's been
Unless
rented.
that was
you
just.
mean?
No, it's the very bottom, like the very bottom section. You can see that the new fees are like 95.23, and then, you know, with GST, it works out to $100. So it looks like that's already been done for some of the items, unless that was just a coincidence.
That's why.
Okay, just looking for convenience. I agree. I don't think there's many cash payers these days.
There isn't, but
There is, but there isn't.
yeah, I don't
We
know.
like rounded it up to the next 50 cents.
well, yeah, we just have to do that conversion to make sure what works out.
Yeah.
So it might be.
I see what you're meaning, but, or I see what you mean, Dale. I think I'm indifferent on it.
Thank you, Councilor Burtis. Anything else, Councilor Paquette, Councilor Slater? Councilor Henshaw, is there anything else? Fees and charges?
No, otherwise it looks good to me, and thanks for adding the nonprofit bullying fees in there.
So your worship, it'll come back for reading next Tuesday.
Yep, and that'll be third and final, right? Yeah, third and final reading. So if there's anything else, now we'll see chance. So third and final reading will be next week. Right, that's what we set our date for.
17th.
It's next week.
Yes.
Okay. Moving right along. Number 10, the draft cemetery bylaw. Questions, comments, conversation?
Yeah. what's your bylaw?
Sorry, I just had a quick question before we get into that discussion. Are we actually discussing the bylaw itself, or was this just around the correspondence piece that was attached?
The bylaw itself, because we have discussed past that we need to start the process of passing this bylaw. And when I asked that, we set the date of February, first meeting in February to start the process. So that's why it's on the agenda today, so that you can see what the drafted final copy looks like. And we can have it on in February for first reading.
Have there been any changes made to this since the town hall meeting? The last town hall meeting, because we had the second version then.
We haven't got that back.
Yeah, we're still waiting on it, your worship.
Okay, so we're still waiting for an updated draft. Okay. Did you hear that, Councillor Henshaw?
So this is the same one from the town hall meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking, sorry, because I don't have all my notes with me, I apologize.
Okay.
So yes, your worship, the reason we put it on was to spur conversation and thinking about it
Mhm.
in February.
That's right.
Weren't there several items in there that to be discussed with council / admin? In the comment log? That was attached for the information, background information? Such as page 10, section 6.16, clarification needed around who can and cannot conduct work on a gravesite. In other sections of this bylaw, it alludes to the family being able to do work at the gravesite. And it says to be discussed with council. And I don't know if that's like erecting like a fence or some sort of like memorial but there's several things in the comment log. Then there's others that have been removed. And that's checked off by the consultant initials, but then there's other things that are asking for further clarification. A lot of things were removed from the document to be discussed with council or revised. See other section.
Are these based on the original one, or are these based on the second one?
The first one, I believe.
But we're not using the first one anymore, correct?
It'll be this,
We're using the second
revised
one.
one will be coming to you With most of these comments, if not all.
Corrected.
already correctly addressed in it.
From the second one, correct? You
Yes,
just said?
the one that's coming and we're
Oh,
supposed to have
okay.
it,
So then,
we're supposed to have it shortly.
So this might already all be,
Been addressed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
addressed,
this is
okay.
just the reason, like I said, the reason
Yeah.
this is put here to spur your thinking about it and review, so when you look at the next draft that comes.
Yeah.
You'll know what was spoken about, and then you can compare it to the second one.
and we haven't got anything back from Elephant other than this correspondence from the 18th. right?
Not a word.
Nothing, okay, I just wanted to know that, just because
Lots of correspondence.
they're supposed to be giving us a bunch of stuff, so. Well, by that letter, it seems like they're supposed to be giving us feedback, and I was just making sure that we haven't got that yet or not.
And it's that Tiffany's very much got a documented trail of
Okay,
requests and the chasing for it.
but also, even if we do pass the cemetery bylaw, you could always put procedure like, policy, sorry, that's what I meant to say. To add any recommendations from. Like
As an
Elephant
addendum.
members or First Nation members, right? Like just because you just, I don't know, I don't wanna pass it and then get yelled at and not be able to, but. Just trying to,
I understand.
yeah, okay, I don't know how to
And
word it.
yes,
Okay,
can attach policy for certain procedures or practices. that
practices, that's right,
Take place in.
Yeah. okay,
In some of the wording, it states that, on approval by the CAO, and I approved one for a funeral this week. Where the spouse wants the hand fill in the grave.
Right.
And I approved it because that's the request from the family and it makes sense. So, we still have to be on site to supervise, right? Because we're liable. But it was a request from the family and it's a no-brainer. So there is the leeway for those things now, right?
that's just my main concern is as long as it's not, like, there is leeway there in some sense where it's not. They're not asking ridiculous things, but
We're trying to be culturally.
that's right, it's sensitive, yeah, that's right, that's my only
and like
concern.
Cam, it states very clearly that special permission can be granted for special procedures that people would like. I just don't want to see an administrative burden happening where we have to create another policy because we haven't thought of things in the bylaw before we passed it. So that's where I like that clause where there is provision for special permission so that we're not creating more documents and administrative burden. When we worked a long time on this already, like this has been going on, like you said, for over a year.
Yeah.
The one thing I wondered about when I read this, and I don't, is the shroud, like just having a shroud. Like, is there not, I thought there had to be like a rough box around somebody, like not, like, why is that even in there? That's
To prevent rocks in graves, isn't it?
Sorry?
Yeah.
To prevent they,
No, it says they can just be shrouded. There is no, that's what it says. It's 6.12. I was like, whoa, what's that?
isn't the shroud just another name for rough box?
No, shroud is not another name for rough box. A shroud is just somebody wrapped in plastic.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what a shroud is. So that's why I was like, what, why is that in there? So I wasn't sure if that, now that you're saying that stuff's coming back, so I read this, but I don't know that that's even gonna be in the new one. I don't know. But it was 6.12, suitable container, and then it says, at the discretion of the town. No, suitable container is defined. Rigid completely encasing the body at the discretion of the town if requested, a family member arrange interment using only a shroud. The shroud. An interment using only a shroud is arranged, a board must be an internal part of the shroud to support the body. So that would mean a board underneath it,
Yes,
but.
but I think that was part of the stuff that's been changed in draft too.
Okay, and that's what I wondered, now that I know that this isn't the original draft, because I noticed there was a contradiction in respect to 3.7 and 9.13, it contradicts itself. So 3.7 says, something about visiting during regular hours, and then 9.3 says you can visit whenever you
Yeah,
want,
so those are all comments from the original one
Yeah,
that were changed in the second one.
yeah,
Yeah.
because this isn't right in the second one that I'm reading,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming that's being changed from the original one,
So
okay,
the third one.
yeah. Yeah.
So it could all,
The first, sorry, because the first one was that big document,
Okay.
and the second was the next
This one.
line And then third is.
Will be all the comments and feedback from the town hall. meeting,
Okay,
right? Yeah.
so not worrying about that then. Okay,
And like I say, we'll have it to you before the meeting in February for your approval. So I wouldn't read any more into this. It's just resource information for you.
yeah, okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, we just wanted to spark everybody's.
Well, it's part.
I appreciate your attention.
Like the shroud business, I was
Because-
like, ooh.
But yes, we just set a deadline to start passing this bylaw, and that's why I wanted just to spark everybody's memory, so. Glad we're on the ball. All right, number 11. Garbage collection and recycling bylaw. This is on there for discussion.
Okay. Page 8, number 20. Where, like garbage bylaw, where it says, garbage collection mandatory regardless, like you cannot like. You can't say, okay, I'm gonna haul my own garbage and I'm gonna just, because I only make one bag a week, so I'm gonna pay the $2 and bring it to the dump myself.
You
Was,
can't opt out.
yeah, that was the original intent of, because my big bugaboo or problem with this bylaw is places where there's obviously no garbage collection taking place, but we're still tacking on the $20 a month, $240 a year to, charging someone a service that we're not providing. So it's one thing to try to, and the thing is, when this first came out, the intent was the fact that people saying, well, $20 a month, if I'm getting 2 bags a week, well, that's $4 times 4 weeks, it's only $16, not 20. So I'm just gonna save the $4 and drive it there myself. And the argument was like, well, you're gonna burn that much in gas just to take it there and back. And like, could not be so difficult. But so that's where I think the intent was there, like you cannot opt out. However, it doesn't, can someone else point out to me where it says that you have to charge $20 a month? And because there was, like, if there's a residence there, then we charge them regardless. If there's no residence, then we don't charge them, but I don't know where it says that in the actual bylaw, and I believe maybe perhaps there was a list of other issues upstairs in the front office that was being collected once upon a time of issues with this bylaw or contradictions or things that needed further clarification.
Yes, councillors, your worship, remember that this was dealt with
2020?
in 2020, so all those previous issues were brought forward in 2020 that your council modified.
Gotcha. No, I went through and I looked when we had like it was December 15th, followed by second reading in January, I did look at that for the history of it, because myself, I was like, well, I can't find where it says you have to charge them $20. That's the only issue I have with this.
Oh,
There's probably something else if I really looked at, but I couldn't find where, other than page 8, number 20, where you can't opt out, but I don't see where it says,
They have to be charged $20.
yes. Which is why we're getting a lot of citizens, well, 3 in particular, that had approached me and said, this is wrong.
yeah, 'cause you're.
And I said I'd look into it, so this is me looking into it, keeping my word.
If you can't opt out and you own a residential lot, does that mean it's automatically charged?
But yes, well, according to Shannon,
And that's what it says here, payment for curbside collection shall be in accordance with the payment provisions of this bylaw. The monthly fee as set out in Schedule A will be charged to the account whether or not the owner or occupant uses the municipal collection service.
So here, Councillor Flager on page 12, look at payment under 72
okay, action right there.
Page 12.
on page 12.
70, okay,
Payment. Every owner or occupier of an established, a property on established use shall pay for the service of solid waste collection, period.
wait, no, I think we should change it.
So we have to go through a whole bylaw process for one change. And also,
Policy then,
well.
it's still not right, it's not right.
There's also incentive. You know, we're also trying to encourage people to develop their lots and trying to, you know, encourage them to use the services. And it also, if you're saying there's 3 people, right? You're saying there's 3 people that don't want this service, but the rest of the.
No, it's not that they don't want the service, they're being charged for a service that's not being provided. They've got no problem with, like, if somebody was living there, fair enough.
Mhm.
But there's nobody there and we're charging them for a service we're not providing, and that's wrong.
Why is there nobody living there though?
I don't know.
Well, I'm just like trying to think, like, I'm just trying to think,
Is
just
it because
because
the lot
like,
is empty? Is it because the,
Okay, so let's take Cecilia Stewart's place, for instance, they're on
Island now?
Highland.
yeah, right, I mean, yeah.
All right, so that one there's residents there, and I'm sure $20 a month is getting tacked on to that one.
Mhm.
But he should fix his home and put somebody in there for
Rent it and
their
garbage service.
That's right, like it's trying to incent that because you're, like, if you don't want the $300 whatever it costs a year. Like,
Put someone in there and
Put someone in
charge
there.
them rent.
charge them rent.
I think the bank owns that now.
No, it's owned by an individual.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's why it's boarded up.
yeah.
Your worship, I guess, from administration, there's numerous technicalities to policing, not charging, is the fact that, we don't have the authority to go check to see if a place is, if there's a house and if there's anybody occupying.
But if the water's turned off, all like,
Yeah,
there's no
well,
water.
we have a lot of properties that aren't on town water. So how do you?
I don't know, at some point, would that common sense prevail?
Well, we still have to, I guess, administration
It's a burden.
administration will put together a report if council votes to have this reviewed.
Okay.
I guess that's where administration will sit, because we can put together the pros and cons to bring to council on a report, but there needs to be consensus or a unanimous vote to readdress the bylaw, I guess is what I'm looking for.
We did just review it. It was pretty recent, so
They never complained until afterwards,
fair enough.
sorry.
But, okay, because I do. You know, if there's a concern, that's the bottom line, you know, but it is also a burden. I understand where everybody's coming from. There's 2 sides of the story. And how do you monitor who isn't using that service? How do you determine that?
Common sense.
But you can't.
Okay, is the water shut off? Yes. Is there no garbage in the garbage bin every single time I check it? Check. There you go.
So many discrepancies in that. though.
Oh.
It's just like, okay, there's no garbage.
Don't you feel like that opens up the possibility for a lot of people to opt out of garbage
Yeah.
collection? And then how do we pay for this service if we don't, you know what I mean? Like how, like we rely on those fees to continue to collect the garbage.
my question is, how many people does this affect?
So I guess, okay, so to avoid going around in circles, we have to have a vote. We have to decide if this is worth looking into or not. So Councillor Slager, you are
I'm
in,
in favor of looking into it, obviously.
is there anybody to vote with Councillor Slager?
Thanks, guys.
I don't see, sorry, it's just.
Did anybody want to add comment to that?
Can we just let the record show that I tried?
Yes, of course. And maybe we could ask admin to show us some feasibility or some purpose as to what the difficulty would be with, or some disadvantages to, you know, why that can't be the case.
I guess your worship, the garbage bylaw will be coming back in front of council when we do the public waste drop off. So the bylaw will have to come for a reading then. So truthfully, if council, because if you open it for this one now, then have to go through 3 readings.
Mhm.
Then when the public waste drop off is done and hopefully in the spring, we would have to reopen it again.
Can we revisit it at that point? If it's a matter of it's already open at the time?
Yeah, the whole bylaw.
Because I'm okay with that, as long as we're looking into it, because the thing that I take pride in the most is when a citizen comes and says, hey, I've got this issue with this, I'm like, hey, let me see what I can do to help you out, because that's why we're sitting in these chairs, to help out people, not because it might take up an extra item on our agenda.
Yep.
Right? And if it's already open, I would strongly encourage us to do the right thing and not charge people for something that we know we're, just do the right thing on this. That's all.
Well, the only thing.
If we are, if
Go
we
ahead.
are in fact going to be opening this bylaw in the near future, then I support us waiting and then discussing it at that time.
Cause it's a small enough town. We know we know when a place is occupied or not occupied.
Straight. Okay, so if that's fine.
Okay, I'm
Figure.
happy with that.
So hopefully we'll have that solid waste and there will be a lot of changes. We also discussed the arm,
Yes, the tipper and the bag limits and all that is part of that discussion when the bylaw will come. Because the tipper arm, which was supposed to be in here in October, is, I'm told, getting closer to being fruition.
Okay.
So that would allow us to change the bag limits as well.
Yeah, so to a capacity
Yeah.
form. Okay, okay, everybody okay? Okay. Okay, Counselor Open Forum.
With the amount of dogs, sorry, and you guys,
You go ahead first.
with the amount of dogs, 17 that we just recently hauled up to Whitehorse. Would it be prudent to, and if it's, it's taking up a lot of our bylaw officers' time, which it appears to be. Would it behoove us as a town, as a cost-saving measure, to bring a vet here and say, if you have a female dog, we're gonna offer a,
Discounted rate or something.
Free charge.
what do we have charge even, because it was
Happened before.
So, I can tell you.
Isn't this already in the works?
Yes,
I thought-
remember it came to council,
Yeah.
I don't know how many months ago,
Yeah.
but council approved, remember, to bring Cat in or whatever
Yeah.
the
but we just never did it, or what?
Association of Vets. It was on the council agenda, we spoke about it.
Yeah.
And so we've applied, we're waiting for a response for them to come. And
Okay,
we've met, and Connie met with Dr. Mary Vandenkop, the territorial vet, this week. And she's actually decided to contribute $10,000 towards it if we get them to come.
Wow.
Because she knows the financial impact it could have on the community. So she's throwing another 10 grand in the mix. So, and she says, if you get them to come, they'll come, they'll repeat coming for I think up to 3 years.
Jeez.
To get us in check. So it's huge. But our big issue with the dogs right now is the fact that Yarn is closing. And now she's trying to get rid of 77 dogs.
Oh, wow.
And then, so she's not taking these litters that are on advertised right now because they used to go to her. But she would take them, but it was mandatory that you got your dog fixed for her to take the puppies. And it was, and that the neutering was part of the agreement, but it was paid for. So with her closing, it's caused this vacuum effect. And so that's what we're dealing with now. So in between the territorial vet and our bylaw department, they're actively pursuing the vet to come, the vet group to come down. And then it'll be free.
yeah,
Because we can't get, no local vets in the territory will attend Watson Lake. They're so busy in Whitehorse and so short-staffed.
can we see if we can bring someone from down south then?
We tried, we had that other vet.
The person on TV, let's bring them,
Yeah.
like an episode of it, like, come on, let's,
Doctor.
do this right.
Doctor.
I don't know, I mean,
I know some
but you know what I mean, like.
granddaughter who's a vet.
There is some works in the.
Is it?
in progress for that.
That was my.
Is there anything else, Councilor Snyder?
No, the encounter item, that's it.
Dry hydrants.
Oh, yes, thank you. There's the dry hydrants that were planned. Actually, the expansion from the orange and the green and whatnot, that was around. There's a further. If there's a water line there, there's gonna be a regular hydrant, dry hydrants will be necessary, pretty much.
Yeah, well, dry hydrants, where the dry hydrants were planned, we're not in any of the areas where water and sewer are. If we're talking Watson Lake, we're talking,
Bellevue.
Bellevue subdivision. And what's held that up is the fact that they can't do more test drilling and stuff until the spring.
Oh.
And they're working on heritage assessment as well.
The other part that was part of the WSP water line, read a comment and then asked if Canyon Boulevard would be interested in the industrial section being included in the expansion, and I seem to recall a long time ago, like there's people there that have their own wells right now. And there was talk about if an expansion was available, would you? And it was at a cost of X dollar amount. And a lot of people were like, well, I already have a well, I have a sewer, I have great water. Why would I want to? Or they haul their own, or they had other means, right? So part of the thing there is, and in that water expansion is, do you guys think that'd be worth revisiting? Or do we want to keep that, or do we want to get away from, what do you call it? Where you have your place of residence at your business, not the caretaker homes.
So your worship, I can tell you that based on the dollar amounts and us worrying about trying to just get what we have now redone, I've told them to take expansion to the industrial subdivision off the list. Because we know right now, money's gonna be tight, and to do that subdivision where there's gonna be so few people taking it on, it would be a massive undertaking for the municipality.
Okay, that was just because it was in there and it was a question and I thought it was supposed to ask.
Yeah.
Where's that Canyon? Oh, sorry, is that?
Industrial section, so like McMillan.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And part of that proposal was geared towards the administration. So I just give it to you because there's questions, it was just questions what they were freelancing that you guys would have looked at that you wouldn't have seen in the final presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Paquette.
Oh. Now that we know that Charlie Crane has stepped down, has the new fire chief been offered a position?
That would be an in-camera matter to speak about.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
We do have an in-camera session, so. Anything else, Councillor Paquette? Okay. Councillor Burtis, you good? Councillor Hanchar, you have any questions for Council Open Forum?
Not really. We were gonna set a date for the town hall meeting.
Yeah.
I'm proposing the week of March 6th to the 10th, somewhere in there, right before spring break.
Somewhere in there.
That week or the week before.
March 7th?
Well, we already have a council meeting on the 7th, so it'd have to be the 8th or 9th.
Thursdays. I don't like back-to-back meetings, especially not 3 in a row. So maybe the 9th, if anybody. That works for, that's the Thursday for spring break.
And that would allow you to have, your committee of the whole discuss it.
Okay.
Sounds good. So March 9th,
March 9th?
Yep.
what time?
It's the usual 6.
6. March 9th.
Thank you. And then the only other thing that I was going to say, which I actually think I said last time, but regarding the letter to EMS or to the government regarding EMS. I guess if we haven't done that yet, to tack on a thing about the billing that you said that we're having a hard time with.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay. I can work with the administration for that, EMS. Okay, thanks, Councillor Hanchar. Nothing else?
Thank you. No, that's all. Thanks.
You'll stick around for in camera?
Yes.
Okay. Gallery open forum.
Janice and Mike.
Anything?
No comments here from me, guys. It was just nice to be here and thanks very much for having me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You guys as well.
Here, Mike.
Janice, do you have any questions or comments?
She said no in the comment or in the chat.
Oh, I didn't see, I got nothing in my chat.
Okay,
Oh, there it is.
Make a motion to go on camera then?
make a motion to go in camera. Second, going into camera.
Mike, you just have Janice to love. Janice, okay, you're in camera.
We'll stop recording.
Me and then pause.
Councilor second. Councilor Burtis, motion to adjourn.
Second it,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, sir.
Slayer, okay.